As it may be fitting or not, Céime de Fáilte, Dúgait, Feargal and Tanya Mata Orem. That, of course, is my own first language, and 100,000 welcomes to you all. I wanted to begin by telling you about a man called James. Now, James was an electrician, earned £7,000 a year, brought up 7 kids in Northern Ireland at a time that was quite turbulent in our history and our past. And James was a huge believer, like a lot of parents, in the notion of education. Like a lot of parents aspired that his children would not necessarily face some of the hardships, some of the challenges that life had presented him. And for quite a long period of time, James was actually doing extraordinarily well. One son went on to very, very long career as an editor of a national newspaper, children in medicine, teaching, and it was going fantastically. Until he came to number 3 son. That would be the one called Feargal, who suddenly announced one day that he was going to abandon a very successful career delivering televisions for radio rentals for the opportunity to appear on the BBC's Top of the Pops, which I'm sure if you read the Sunday tabloids, in James's mind instantly meant that Feargal was to spend a lifetime driving an expensive sports car into a swimming pool during some night of crazed debauchery. I'm happy to tell you that James is an awful lot more relaxed these days. And for the record, guys, I never did manage to find that party, much to my deep resentment and disappointment. I think it's fair to say, however, that James was somewhat pleased, delighted, when Feargal was appointed Chief Executive of UK Music. For the first time in 120 years, the coming together of all of the commercial interests of the music industry, from the singers, the songwriters, the composers, the record companies, the managers, the publishers, the producers, the collection societies. It was an extraordinary achievement for the industry. And in many ways, it's what lies beneath it that is even more extraordinary. And what sits behind it is this wonderful thing called creativity. And as it transpires, we in the United Kingdom are phenomenally good at this little game. What if I were to tell you that we are number 2 in only 3 countries in the world that sell more music to everyone else than we buy in? What if I told you that every single one of you standing in this room buys more music every year than any other grouping of people or nation in the planet? What if I told you 4 of the 10 biggest selling artists in the world last year come from these islands of Great Britain and Northern Ireland? For such a small 4 nations, that's a remarkable, remarkable thing. What if I told you that the modern world we live in, this idea of being creative now contributes more to UK PLC than the pensions industry, the insurance industry, and we're right up there with the construction industry and the financial services? I have to tell you, you've no idea how it tickles me with what some people might possibly refer to somewhat dismissively is nothing more than a bunch of kids making noise in the back room of a pub on a Friday night. Well, as it transpires, when they grow up to be big boys and girls, their contribution and impact on all of our lives is just as vital, just important, just as significant as someone with a double first from Oxford working for Merrill Lynch in the City of London. That's an extraordinary thing. That's why we created UK Music. That's why things like the Welsh Music Foundation are so significant, so important. It is imperative that the next young generation is given all of the help, encouragement, nurturing and opportunity as we can possibly provide for them. Music for some of us is quite clearly entertainment. Something passes through our lives. Every one of you think, anybody in this room not listened to a piece of music in the last 24 hours? You didn't even realise it. There's not one single person put their hand up, and I have been asking that question for 30 years, and today not one single person has ever put their hand up. At UK Music, we have an ambition. That is, in 10 years' time, we will no longer be the second largest source of talent and creativity in the world. It is that we will be the number 1 source of talent, creativity in the world. It is achievable, it is doable, should we all decide to take that step. And that is why I've been amazed and astonished for the 7-8 years that I've had the great distinction and pleasure of knowing and working with the Welsh Music Foundation, to see that collaboration between the Welsh Assembly, the government, and what they have achieved here. By way of example, some of us sat in a room in London 6 or 7 years ago and come up with a completely crazy idea. Why don't we work with local authorities? Industry will fill them full of kit, and people can go in there and practice, and for the first time in their lives pick up a musical instrument. It's with great pleasure I can tell you that the very first one we ever did of this crazy, mad little idea was in Wrexham in North Wales. And I did go and check during June, July and August. On average, there were 750 young people in there, on average 4.5 to 5 hours a day. There's now 14 of similar rehearsal spaces throughout the United Kingdom, and we are gearing up to double that number, hopefully over the next year and a half, couple of years. To give you some numbers that came across my desk this morning, the Welsh Music Foundation, one of the objectives was to try to retain and build on a music industry here in Wales. And as you can probably tell by my accent, I would be instinctively rather empathetic and supportive towards the idea of a nation being able to control its own dog culture, have a vision of it, its own destiny, and wanting to build it. Well, as it transpires from some work we've been doing at UK Music, I can now tell you that it is about 4% of your population is now employed in the music industry, and that's right up there in line with all of the other creative industries, for example, film, and from what I understand, that's against a national average throughout the United Kingdom of about 5%. So Welsh Music Foundation's come a long way in the last 10 years towards achieving that goal, and a remarkable job you've done too. That, however, is not to distract from the bigger job at hand, and ultimately what music is all about. And that's just the fantastic joy, pleasure that it brings to all of our lives. We are extraordinarily fortunate in the United Kingdom that generation after generation we produce young people with astonishing imagination, astonishing ambition, bad attitudes, and unbelievably creative. We need to applaud them, we need to nurture them, and I am looking forward immensely to working closer with the Welsh Music Foundation and UK Music and building on that and achieving all of our goal that not only the United Kingdom will be #1 in 10 years' time, but Wales, Welsh music will be at the centre, if not the forefront of all of that. My name is Feargal Sharkey. May your God go with you.
Diolch yn fawr iawn I Feargal Sharkey. Thank you very much to Feargal Sharkey. Great pleasure having you here, and also thank you so much for all the support you've given to the Welsh Music Foundation over the 10 years, and again making time this afternoon on a busy schedule. That's it. It's now time to enjoy yourself. The food is available. Please feel free to enjoy yourselves. Thanks very much.